Hello, my name is Anthony, your host of Lead with Curiosity. Welcome to another episode where today I am joined by Marnie Wills. Marnie is an AI strategist. She's a guru, all things AI. And this is actually the first of two episodes because there's literally so much to unpack. In the episode today, we're going to talk a little bit about what AI is, how to use AI ethically, and we'll start to get into some of the practical ways in which you can use it. I'd ordinarily say grab a notebook and a pen, but Marnie would prefer you to use an AI tool to record this. You'll see what we mean when we get there. Enjoy the episode. Marnie, thank you so much for joining me today. Delighted to see you. This is a very anticipated episode. I'm going to jump to the end. One of the questions we ask all our guests at the end is, what are you most curious about learning next? And it may not surprise you to know that AI features quite heavily. So
wow, we're going straight to the end.
We're going straight to the end, but I'll tell you what.
I love it.
Let's come back from the end to the beginning, if that makes sense, and talk a little bit about your background. Because when I first met you, I kind of assumed you were some techie, and you're laughing now, and that's exactly the reaction you gave me the first time round. So tell me about your background and how you came to be curious about AI in the first place.
Gosh, okay, so I won't rewind too far, but what I will say is I was the entrepreneur struggling in lockdown, doing everything, not only obviously looking after my children, but I was the marketer. I had to learn all things online business. I had to learn meta ads. I mean, you name it, we had to learn it during lockdown because our businesses, I had 2 brick and mortar businesses and they both went online. So coming out of that, I ended up hiring a copywriter to help me franchise one of my businesses. And although she's an absolutely lovely lady and she's probably a massive expert in what she does, I couldn't get her to write the copy that I wanted.
Okay.
And I didn't have that feeling of wanting to go, I don't like this. You know, I didn't want to offend her, really. But the problem was I didn't actually know who I wanted to sell my franchise to. And somehow, by some type of miracle, I stumbled on Jasper AI, which is a copywriting AI tool. It was ChatGPT in a wrapper. So at that time, this was 2021. So it was like ChatGPT 2.5, something ridiculous. I mean, we're up to 5.7 now. So that gives you a bit of a clue of how far it's come. And I loved Jasper. My new best friend, my new copywriter, helped me go back and forth who I wanted to sell to, who I didn't, what messaging, what wasn't. And fast forward to 2023, and I had been obsessed with AI, all things AI in that time. And then I discovered Claude. And have been obsessed with Claude since as well. And Claude AI allowed me to digitalize a lot of my health and fitness programs that I'd written, and then I was able to exit that business. And then by 2025, I had delivered a lot of AI workshops inside the online business space and just generally to anyone who'd want to listen to me because I was a little obsessed with it. And I decided I'd go all in and start a consultancy. So that was almost 18 months ago.
So you're now a full-blown AI strategic consultant?
I am. Yeah, I am. How did I get here? Gosh knows. And I know nothing about the back end of AI, by the way.
Okay, so we're not going to have... So to explain to the listeners, we're going to have 2 conversations. We're going to split this into 2 episodes because there's a lot to unpack. So really the purpose of the first episode is for anyone listening that's stepping into AI, intrigued, possibly anxious about AI, just to kind of lay the framework. And then in the second episode, we'll explore more about some of the tools and things we can do. I know you didn't want to go too far back, but I am curious, just for context, just at a really high level, tell me about the 2 businesses that you were there, because you obviously have an entrepreneurial background. So just...
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm Aussie and I came over to London to play sport. I was lucky enough to be representing England in 2 sports, touch rugby and netball. And I was also a PE teacher. But in 2023, I was a head of netball at a school and I got told by a head teacher that I couldn't take any more time off because I'd taken a lot of time off. So I said, okay, no worries, there's my resignation. And I thought, what am I going to do? So I started 2 businesses because that's what you do. So it was a health and fitness business, delivering strength and conditioning training for amateur athletes. And then at the same time, I was obsessed with trying to improve PE over here in the UK, physical education, and the value and the ethos. It was very lacking behind the way I grew up. learning about physical education, health and physical education. So I was like, I really want to make a difference there. So I decided to start an early years physical education business. And yeah, so that was start of 2014.
Incredible.
And yeah, I haven't looked back.
So either of those businesses still
Yeah.
running? So they're both still running on top of that?
No, I did exit my health and fitness business. Like I said, it was probably April 2024, but I was able to exit because I digitalized all my products and was able to sell them. So that's thanks to AI. And my early years physical education business, which is called Sporty Minis. I now have 4 business partners that all own part of a region for a business, and the business pretty much almost runs itself, which
Incredible.
is amazing.
And that's something I'd really like to get into later on, is how it can be used on a practical basis to help people save time. And on top of that, full-time mum as well. So
yeah, and the AI that I've got set up in my businesses, I'm still doing the doing. And in my Sporty Minis business, the ops managers, the business partners, the coaches, they're still doing the doing. But our whole back end is run with the help of AI. And there's no way we could scale or have the impact that we have now on like a shoestring budget. Like there's no way I could be running the regions that I'm running with the amount of humans that I've got 5 years ago. No chance would we be able to do that. So yeah, I really can testify that when you adopt AI as individuals, us personally, our personal AI intelligence, it really does increase the human capability. And then the more capable the humans are in the business, the more capacity the business has.
Well, let's explore that a bit more, because you've talked about adopting AI, and we're going to have some people listening who are already well ahead of the curve. And as we were chatting before we started recording, there are a number of people I've certainly come across in recent times where there's a real reluctance. There's this perception that AI is going to take away everyone's jobs, that we're going to turn into robots, that it lacks integrity, authenticity, etc., etc. Now, clearly you're walking living proof that isn't necessarily the case. But if we go back to the very beginning for people who are in that space, what would you say to anybody who is currently nervous or reluctant about embracing AI?
Yeah. Well, if it's okay, I think what I always like to start with is clarity. Let's get clarity of what AI actually is, and let's look at some digital transformations we've had already, because the more clarity you have, the more understanding you've got and the more you feel confident to take action. So AI has been around since the 50s. It was machine learning.
Since the 50s?
Since the 50s.
Okay.
I'm sure it's 1952 or 1954. So it's been around for a really long time. And then in the early 2000s, we got deep learning, which is your maps and your social media algorithms. And, we've had that since the internet days. So then you fast forward, and actually generative AI, as we know it now, so take Copilot, ChatGPT, Gemini, they're large language models. They've actually been around since 2011, being used in the back end by developers, right?
So when you say large language model, talk me through this gently.
Yeah.
What is a large language model?
The large language model is a form of generative AI, which we've had since 2011. It's just that us humans didn't get access until November 2022 through ChatGPT. So ChatGPT is a form of large language model, and it's got the ability to take any type of source, so whether that be code, written, video, image, it can take that and it can reproduce or recreate or generate something new.
Okay.
And that's how we go into ChatGPT and we say, can you analyze my last 5 spreadsheets and bring out 5 key elements related to my P&L? So it's able to analyze. It's able to predict. If I said, then have a look at XYZ in the market and give me some predictions, right? So it's be able to predict. It also can create me something new. So now I could say, can you create me a whole new spreadsheet with my predictions or with the predictions for the next 3 years? So it's able to analyze, create something new, or predict something. That is what a large language model can do. It can also create images. We had that fun when we first met, trying to create images, and that was probably almost a year ago. And what it can do now is amazing. It can create code, so you can do something called vibe coding, which is a human speaking to an AI, and it can create a whole website. It can do the whole coding. It can create an application. It can do all of those things. So I've gone off tangent.
Well,
that
I'm
is
just
a large
thinking.
Language model.
No, it's fine. I like the clarity piece, because I think this is really important. But again, anybody listening to this that has any slight reluctance might have their toes curling up right now. So why
Yes.
shouldn't they? And where does that kind of come from?
So again, the clarity piece is this technology's been around for a long time. We may or may not have loved the internet when it came out.
Okay.
We may or may not have loved our phones, our smartphones. We may or may not have loved social media. They're all technology. At the end of the day, this technology is here. There's not a lot we can do about it, but in my opinion, you can learn what it is, why you would want to use it, how to use it ethically, safely, and strategically, so that actually you could be at the forefront for either your business or even the next generation. We're at a time where I think it's really similar in terms of when the internet came out and the security issues we were having. Now's the time to learn so that you don't get caught in any issues that you don't want to, or you are able to upskill yourself so you know what is safe, what isn't safe.
Okay.
Because these changes are coming. There's not a lot we can do about it. And in my opinion, I think those leaders who are able to step up now, and you don't have to do the doing all the time. You just have to understand the capabilities of generative AI.
And I think that's a really important distinction.
Mm-hmm.
Because as a leader, there might be a perception of I'm supposed to know all this thing and be the all-seeing or dancing.
No.
It's interesting, obviously, as you know, the title of this pod is Lead with Curiosity, but that would be curious about. I'm hearing from you that this isn't going away.
No.
I can't imagine a time now where we wouldn't have our phones or the internet didn't exist. AI is definitely in that bracket.
Mm-hmm.
You also mentioned the ethics. I'm really pleased you mentioned that, because I still see a lot of people who are using a free version of Claude or ChatGPT or Copilot. Again, just at a high level, why should that be a concern? And from a safety point of view, what should people be thinking about in terms of how they use AI?
Yeah, there's a lot there as well. And before I quickly go into that, it's worth noting that ethically, we need to know what energy resources each model is using and how much context they're using as well, because I think that's a big field for some people. They want to be able to use it sustainably, so it's important to know the difference. But to come back to your initial question, ethical use for me is the ability to know what AI is safe and what could be a risk. So if we think about a general version, so a non-paid version, I do actually believe you can now change the settings so you can actually toggle off the ability for the AI to train on your data. Even in the free version, that never used to be the case, but you can do that now.
Okay.
One might choose to do that if they were sharing some personal information or maybe some intellectual property if you're part of a business. So you might want to turn that off. I actually keep that on because I don't really share any intellectual property that is specific to me, and I definitely don't share any details of clients that's not already publicly available. And if I am, I'm doing it in incognito window anyway.
Right.
But the reason I leave it on is I actually believe we are at the point where we are training these AI models for the next generation. I have a 4 and an 8-year-old, and I am adamant that they will have an AI tutor at some point in their education journey. And we do not want that AI to be trained on just AI content. We really want that AI to always have that human expertise, domain expertise, our knowledge, our experience, and our perspective. Really, really important. And that's how we can use it ethically. If we're asking the AI to complete a task for us, have we asked the AI to ask us clarifying questions, ask us our thoughts and perspective, ask us whether we agree or disagree and why? Have we asked it to fact check? Have we asked it to critically analyze what it thinks and what I think? It's a collaborative model. If we're just asking an AI to do something, goes off and does it, we don't check it and we don't add any domain expertise. The AI is only learning off the AI. And for me, that is ethically where the biggest mindset and behavior shift needs to come.
Okay.
Besides the fact that we do need to be careful for businesses, especially those people in a company really should be using a company paid version, because we're getting to the point where the intellectual property that us humans create with the AI is known as hybrid data. That's becoming really, really valuable. And if I work for you and I'm using my marnie@hotmail.com email address for my Gemini account on Google, you don't own any of the intellectual property that I'm creating with AI, which is hybrid data, which means when you're ready to scale and create agentic workflows and agents that are able to assist you, you can't use any of my data. So if we're working together, I need to be on a business paid account for you to then own that intellectual property.
Okay, so for any leaders or business owners that are listening that are thinking, I don't know whether any of my team's people are using a free version. We don't have a paid version. At the risk of putting words in your mouth, you appear to be suggesting that might be a good place to start.
Yeah. And I'm going to tell you a little story, and I really hope my husband doesn't listen to this.
I hope he is listening, by the way. But
Yeah. So he has a team member he's in finance. He has a team member who's using a personal Claude account and had put in a whole lot of data that shouldn't be put in there.
Right.
Being a listed company, they need to keep some type of financials off the market. And look, the risk of that, being taken, being seen, is low, but it's still a risk. It is still a risk. If it was in a company paid account, it is in an enterprise security, so it's not being pulled from anywhere. So I think, I don't know, it's kind of back in the day when we were opening up an email, we would open up a fake email and not realize because we didn't know what we didn't know. We're kind of at that point in AI. We don't know what we don't know about the safety and security risks. So it's something that probably has to be on a quarterly agenda. Where is AI at now? How does that affect our cybersecurity? And how does that affect, the policies and procedures we're putting in place? Where is our company data stored? Where are our clients' customer data stored within an AI? Because even the softwares we're using, take a marketing software like HubSpot, for example, they have agents inbuilt. So all of your company data is in there, but you're still using an AI within there. So whether we agree or disagree, or whether we're ready or we're not ready, we're going to be using AI almost all the time. And we need to know its capabilities and potentially any risks that could be there.
And I guess from a customer point of view, I'd want to know how you're using the data. I should say, actually, for those listening or watching, when you and I first met, I'd actually taken some advice and went to a legal specialist and had an AI policy sort of drawn up. The first question you asked me when we sat down together was, right, ethics, policy, and you kind of went through it with a fine tooth comb. Luckily, I came out sort of squeaky clean. But yeah, I think that's definitely something that's worth considering.
Yeah.
From an individual user perspective, let's say I'm listening to this and thinking, okay, I'm still a little bit cautious, but baby steps. I'm going to need to embrace this. It's not going anywhere. Have you got any tips for how I might gently start getting comfortable with AI and how I might use it?
Yeah, I've got a few. My favorite is download on your phone whichever large language model app you want to use. So is that going to be Gemini through Google? Is that Copilot because you've got your Microsoft already there? Is it going to be ChatGPT because everybody knows it and it's something probably first that we've used first? Is it going to be Claude? Maybe it's even Grok, which is XAI, or maybe it's Meta's AI, whichever one you decide for whatever reason. And you can go to Google and decide this yourself if you like. But whatever one you decide, download it on your phone, and every single day give yourself a challenge to do a 10-minute task inside that app. Whether that be turn on the voice mode and start talking to the AI, whether that be instead of going to Google and ask a question, jump into ChatGPT and ask a question.
Okay.
Start by daily use. I don't know, I'm going to probably go a little bit off tangent here, but I don't know about you, but I used to hate apps on my phone. I'm like non-techie. I just hated that they clogged up the screen and that you had to log into them and there was an app for everything and it just didn't really work with my brain. And I was just such a reluctant user. And then everyone would go, oh, are you trying this app? Or are you trying that? I'm talking 2015-ish. It's like when it was the app boom, right? And every time I talk to someone, they go, oh, you should use that app. And I'm like, gosh, I feel like I'm overwhelmed with apps. I feel like we're kind of at that point with AI where we can get really overwhelmed because it can do so much for us if we are curious to what it can do. But we also need to actually start somewhere. So just make it a 10-minute kind of let's start here. The second bit of advice would be find a YouTube, one or two YouTube channels. That's kind of where, or even a podcast, right? Where you go, right, I'm just going to upskill myself once a week in one of these podcast episodes or, one of these YouTube channels. And try to find something that's quite relevant to either your business or your hobbies or kind of the background or maybe just the platform that you want to learn, right? So if you've chosen ChatGPT, like go and subscribe to a YouTube channel that just talks about ChatGPT and its capabilities.
Okay.
And then my last one is just talk about it. Like we've had amazing conversations off air already about different ways we're using AI. Like it should be the topic of conversation. And I was waiting at the airport the other week and I could hear some people chatting about this guy was saying they were definitely friends. It was nothing to do with work, just about how he's using AI. And the people were like, wow, there was two other people with him and they were like, wow. And I desperately wanted to jump in and tell him all about Notebook LM and that he should definitely be trying to use Claude a little bit more than ChatGPT because I could hear what he was trying to do. But of course I didn't.
But you resisted because you were sat next to him on the plane for 10 hours.
Yeah. Also because I hate when people jump in, but I also, I really desperately wanted to. But I was kind of like really, I don't know the word, like I was like excited for them that they were having that conversation, But also, even if that went negative, I still think that's a great thing as well. I was in a networking group the other week and the lady was talking about sustainability and she still said, I refuse to use AI because of the sustainability issues. And I'm like, I get that and I respect that. And I just said very politely, what do you do on the weekends when you're trying to chill? And she says, I've got a couple of Netflixes that I binge on. I said, well, just so that you know, I've done a little bit of research for you. And 20 minutes of AI use on the lightest model happens to be the same energy as 2 hours of Netflix binging.
Okay. Interesting.
Sorry, it was the other way around. It was 2 hours. Sorry, it was 2 hours of AI use in a day on the lightest model. Is the same as 20 minutes of Netflix binging. Yeah. And her face just went like that. And I said, look, if you want, I can do some deep research on sustainability for you and the companies using the AI that are helping them find solutions to our sustainability issues.
Okay. You listed several large language models there, ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, almost similar to the app thing. If I were going to pick one, and I appreciate it's horses for courses and it's different preferences, any tips on where to start or how would I even go about thinking about which one is the best one for me to use?
Yeah.
Or does it not even matter?
I think if you're just starting out, it doesn't really matter because, again, it's about habit. It's a mindset and a behavior change to adopt this technology. So I don't think it matters. I think as you progress in your AI journey, and definitely if you're leading in a business, I think there's a couple of things you need to think about. First of all, it is if you're already in a Microsoft system, so 365, you will get a certain element of Copilot for free. And then you will need to upgrade to a business Copilot. And a lot of people don't realize that, and they're using the free-ish version of Copilot, and it's not the most capable model, although it's improving. It's not the most capable, but then you can go and upgrade. At the moment, I think it's about £17 to £18 per head for the top tier, which actually, if you've got a big business,
is that per month?
Yeah, it does actually add up. If you are in a Google workspace, you also get the Google 3.1 Pro for free. And that's actually a really good model at the moment. So I would say your Gemini which is Google, is more capable at the moment and has more capacity than the Microsoft Copilot. And I think Google is really leading the way with AI in the apps that it has, like the applications it has, the ability to have inbuilt in your ecosystem and to connect to other softwares. Definitely leading the game, and I think will always be top 3.
Okay.
So you kind of get that for free anyway. So just yesterday, I moved a publishing company off. They had one ChatGPT account, paid account per department, and there were 6 departments at £30 a seat. And they were all had a Google Workspace package.
Right.
So we moved them all to Gemini.
Okay.
And I got some resistance. ChatGPT isn't as good as Gemini, and I'm like, well. It is, in my opinion, it is. You just have to train it differently because they are 2 different models.
Okay. But the message really is just try it, go out there and have a bash.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. I think what we'll do is we'll wrap this conversation up now. I think in the next episode, I'd really like to explore a little bit more about some of the uses. You sort of alluded to it earlier about some of the exciting things that people are doing with AI and how we can use it to increase productivity, creativity, and save time. Before we do wrap up this conversation, though, if you were to leave the audience with one thought, one piece of advice, particularly those that are maybe reluctant to adopt AI, what would that message be?
That kind of changes. I get asked this question quite a lot, and it changes every time. But I think it would be a challenge, actually. If the next generation, Gen Alpha, born in 2010 to 2023, if 64% of their jobs do not currently exist, what can you do as a business leader or somebody leading in your community? What can you do with AI that's going to help shape the next generation and their future?
That's a great way to end. Great thought. Marnie, thank you so much.
No problem. It's a pleasure.
Wow, I did promise a lot to unpack, and Marnie certainly didn't disappoint there. I think from the perspective of anybody listening that is curious about AI or perhaps even nervous about AI, I think what Marnie did there is, at least in my opinion, reassured us that this isn't something that is going away, but it's not something that we should be scared of. It's something that we should embrace. And there are some practical tools there and exactly how we do that. In the next episode, we'll go into a bit more detail about how to use it practically. But for now, thank you so much for listening, and don't forget to hit the follow button.